Welcome, everyone, to the Game or Die podcast. My name is Ryan Moore, of course, and this is episode 85. Now, I kind of wanted to do this podcast a couple weeks ago in our old house, but we are here in our new house, and boy, oh boy, is it exciting. It's also been pretty rough for my wife and I over the last couple of weeks here, and I just want to kind of talk about that with this temporary studio that I've got going on right now. It is in our new house, but getting here was kind of a struggle. And I'm not going to go super deep into all the crazy stuff that happened over the last couple of weeks here, but it's been unbelievably exhausting, unbelievably crazy, the craziest time in my entire life, and definitely something that I really, really struggled with. And I was able to trust in God in a new way over the last couple of weeks here. He showed me so many incredible things, and it really deepened my faith going through the last several weeks of this move. And it's just been incredible. So just really quickly, we are in our new house. We live in a different town than we did, about 45 minutes away from where we used to live. And we have a really cool new house with a lot of acres, and it gives us an opportunity to have more animals, which my wife and I love. We love animals. We have almost 5 cats. We're going to have 5 cats in just about a few days here. And then we've got 2 dogs. We've got a tortoise. We've got a fish. We've got 4 ducks. We've got a goose. And we want to get some alpacas, maybe some sheep. Who knows? So we're very, very excited. We love this new house, but getting here was exhausting. And it was the first time that I didn't stream for more than just a day or two. That was kind of my initial plan, was to stop streaming, pack up the studio really quick, and be off for a couple days as we moved and transitioned into the new house, set up a temporary studio like the day we moved in, and then start streaming. But that unfortunately didn't happen. And one of the reasons that I wasn't able to stream was because that was a major reason. Also, I was just so, I don't want to say depressed, because that's not what it was. It wasn't a depressing time, but it was definitely a struggle to be energetic with the things that was going on. So I really, really had to trust in the Lord to be able to say, all right, God, you are, you're God, and you're going to take care of us. I know you will. You promise us this. But man, it was really, really hard sometimes to be able to see, the light at the end of the tunnel and hope for that, and even have faith in that we were going to be okay. And that's kind of one of the things, is faith is the assurance of hope. We hope that everything's going to be okay, but we know that hope is going to happen. We have the assurance of that. And so I really, really like that. And it was an exhausting last couple of weeks. And I wanted to do this podcast before we moved out to kind of just cap off the last few years that we were in that house, but it just didn't happen. Things moved so quickly, so chaotically over the last several weeks that I just was not able to do that. So I'm doing it tonight. And unfortunately, we are using the temporary internet solution that we have, which is Starlink. If you don't know about Starlink, it's an Elon Musk company. Starlink is a product of SpaceX, an Elon Musk company, and it is satellite internet. And satellite internet sucks. It was like one of our deal breakers for moving when we moved out here to Tennessee was can we get fiber or can we get cable internet, gigabit internet? If we can't, then if we only can get satellite internet by the service providers around here, we're not going to do it. But SpaceX or Starlink wasn't really a thing back when we moved. It was brand new. You had to be on a waiting list. And I did apply, but I got on the waiting list so late that it took a few months for me to get accepted. By the time we got accepted to Starlink, I already we found a house and had cable internet and was much faster than the Starlink. Fast forward a few years later, and Starlink is now much more widely accepted, much easier to get. It was on sale, and it works very, very well. for what we need. With our jobs, my wife and I's job, we both work remotely from home, and I use the internet and stream, just like I'm doing right now. And over the course of the last week that I've been working, it's been fine. It's held up very, very well. Not amazing, not perfect, not 100%, but it's worked. And once I kind of nailed down everything for work and finally got the energy to start streaming, I was like, all right, I'm going to start streaming. I'm going to test out Starlink. So I went live. I really didn't touch anything from the computer side of things, the technical aspect of things. And I did a stream a couple of nights ago, playing a new game, which I'll talk about in just a little bit here. But oh boy, the stream constantly crashed on Twitch. Went down, went back up, went down, went back up. And even now, as I lowered the settings by about half of what my bitrate normally is, it's still stuttering. It's still having issues. And so Starlink, unfortunately, is just not a great solution for streaming. But that's okay, because we are going to have fiber internet in about a week from now. And so hopefully by next week, I should be able to be back to my normal streaming schedule, normal, issues. All those issues should be gone by the time next week. But I've got to stream, man. It's in my blood at this point. I love playing video games. I love talking to you guys. So it is something that I do want to do. I do want to do, even if my bitrate is garbage, even if the stream constantly stutters, even if the stream on Twitch starts and stops. Rumble, X, Kick, YouTube, all of those seemed fairly well from what I briefly looked at, but Twitch was the one that just constantly went up and down and up and down. Over the course of about 2-hour stream the other night, it stopped and started 22 separate times. That's insane. Like literally every 5 minutes or so, I would get a notification in my ears saying, oh yeah, the stream has started, like kind of the welcoming message and all that. So it was a kind of frustrating experience to kind of go, hey, everything's been good for work. Now let's switch over to streaming. And it just had issues. So unfortunately, that's just kind of where we're at for the next week of streams or so. Now, that's not to say that it's going to be crazy all the time. I'm going to play around with the settings, see if I can dial it in so that the stream does not have any major issues. And right now it seems to be holding up, but we'll see. But right now with the temporary internet and the temporary studio, I'm sure you can even hear the quality difference because this room doesn't have acoustic diffusion and all that extra stuff. There's a very large echo in this room. I can even hear it in my headphones right now as I talk because that's just the way it is. This is a temporary setup as we transition from moving into this house and unpacking and then moving into the new studio. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about this new studio. It's a ways away from the main house. We have that much land that we have a secondary building that I am devoting to a new studio. But that also requires me to build the new studio, put up studs, insulate, drywall, mud, paint, everything that goes into building a room or several rooms in a basically just empty box of a building. So that's what I'm going to be doing over the next several months here. My just estimated goal is by November that I should be fully transitioned into that new studio. That's just me coming up off the top of my head of when do I foresee this possibly happening? We are in September at this point. It is September 1st. Hallelujah. That means August is completely done. And as much of fun as I had in August with video games, The real life aspect of August has been just rough with the moving, obviously, but also the heat. The heat has been excruciating over this summer. For the last several years that we've been in Tennessee, the summers haven't been that bad. I'm used to heat. I lived in Southern California all my life. So the heat does exist in Southern California during the summer. It gets into the hundreds, 101, 102 sometimes, but mostly in the high 90s, but it's a dry heat. Out here in the South, we have humidity, and humidity does play a bigger issue with heat. And personally, I know I'm very different than a lot of people. I personally don't mind the humidity that much. I like it because it allows me to kind of just have a little bit of moisture in the air. That dry heat that everyone says they love. Oh, I'd much rather have humidity or dry heat than humidity. I'm not that way. I'd much rather have humidity. But the dry heat is definitely something that has I've been accustomed to. And moving in here to Tennessee, it's been not that bad. It's been pretty rough every couple of summer, or every summer. There's a week span where it just gets really stinking hot, where you just don't want to go outside. I'm a big dude. So when I go outside in that type of heat, around 95 to 99 degrees, I just start sweating buckets of sweat just instantly, right? And that's just the way I am. And that's okay. I don't mind that too much. It sucks. It's not something I enjoy at all. I'd much rather not have that happen, but it doesn't bother me too much. But over this summer, it hasn't been like a week of heat. It's been pretty much the entire summer. Like we had a really good, bring up of winter and spring, but spring's ended really quickly for us here. And summer started really, really, really early. And it hasn't let up. It feels like it hasn't let up until we started moving. Once we moved, there was a lull where the degrees went from 95, 97 to 82. And that's still stinking hot, but not as bad as the high 90s that it's been pretty much most of this summer. And then once we finished moving and unpacked, it cranked back up again over the last several days. And it's just been exhausting. And we're still unpacking. We're still moving. We're doing all this stuff. Every day from sun up to sundown is basically moving right now, unpacking and just doing stuff. Physically exhausting stuff. So that is partially why I was not able to stream last week and why last night I intended to stream, but I was just so exhausted. We started super early in the morning. We drove pretty much most of the day back and forth between my parents' house and this house, and just a lot of moving, a lot of going to the dump, the city dump, and unloading a lot of stuff that we were trying to get rid of and we just didn't have the time and all this stuff. It's just manpower. So it's been a crazy, crazy couple of weeks, and I definitely do want to get back into the main streaming, but, because we are moving and this is my life, I'm going to kind of take it a little bit easy because I have pushed myself quite a lot over the last couple of weeks, just with the physical exertion. So I'm playing it day by day right now. My goal is to continue my normal streaming schedule of every night, but we'll see how that goes. I want to do another stream a little bit later on, maybe in a couple hours, to play some actual video games. But I definitely wanted to try and do some podcasting since I haven't been able to do it because I've got a lot of stuff to talk about. So for right now, the temporary studio is sufficient. It's allowing me to do the thing that I want and enjoy it. Now, do I have the proper lighting? No. Do I have the proper acoustics? No. Do I have most of what I want? No. But that's okay because, again, it's all temporary. So I will be building a new studio in the next coming months here, and I'm going to try and catalog that. I'm not actually very good at that because when I have a task, a project, I sit down and just do it. I don't sit there and take pictures of everything that I do, every step, or, document it. And I'm just bad about that because I am working by myself and I'm the only one who's going to get things done. And I want to get it done as quick as possible. So I'm not sitting there worrying about filming or recording or taking pictures and uploading them every day and making notes. I just kind of want to get the project done. So I'm going to try to be a little bit better about this new studio build, because I definitely do like the, hey, look at me and look at the time lapse that I built this thing, or look at the projects that, I built. I love those types of videos, and I would love to create something like that. So we'll see. But enough of the real life stuff. In real life is fine and all, but let's talk about video games. So over the course of the last couple of times I've been playing video games, I've been really, really, really excited to try new things and to get out of my comfort zone. But last month, 2 months ago, actually, let's back up a little bit. 2 months ago, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, was the game of the month. And when that game came out last year, I was really, really excited about it. And my wife and I love that series. We loved playing Breath of the Wild. It was one of our first games that we played together once we got married, like in our honeymoon phase. And so we have amazing memories of that. So when Tears of the Kingdom finally came out, 8 years later, or 7 years later, we were really, really excited about it, but life got in the way. And so we weren't able to play that all the way through. And what we did instead is we took some time off and then we forgot about it. And so my wife said, hey, why don't you play Zelda on stream? And I said, I like playing it with you. And she says, look, I know, but your streaming is kind of like the thing you're doing right now. And I would love to watch that, in my off time, or when she's working, she can have the stream up and kind of catch up and see what's going on. So vicariously, I guess, through streaming, be able to still enjoy it. And so that's what I did. I made it the game of the month, and man, it was such a blast playing that game. Through the fact that it is basically Breath of the Wild 2, I don't mind. I think that's fantastic. That's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want a brand new formula, which is weird because there's so many people who got burnt out on the 3D Zelda formula and was just screaming, give us something new, give us something new. And I was in that category too. Then Breath of the Wild came out and everyone threw up their hands and went, ugh, this is different. And I just went, but that's what you wanted. That doesn't make sense to me that you're sticking your nose up to something different when you kept saying you wanted something different. I love Breath of the Wild. I think it's a fantastic direction for that series. Exploration is much needed, and there was always something right over the horizon. Every step you take in that game, there's something new to discover. Yes, there are the same puzzle elements. Yes, there is hundreds, if not thousands, of Korok seeds at this point, where they are is some of the same types of puzzles. You have a circle missing one rock. You put the rock in the middle, and out pops a Korok seed. Of course, they're going to repeat some of that stuff, but they're always in different locations and different places, and there's always something new with Zelda. And it was really interesting because I did get a lot of new viewers on the channel in YouTube. I normally primarily focus on Twitch, but a lot of new YouTube people were really, really digging the Zelda playthrough, and that was awesome. And since I was unfamiliar with that game because I never beat it, I only got X amount of hours into it with my wife when it first came out and then come back to it a year later on. There was a lot of people kind of trying to not tell me how to play the game, but kind of push me in different directions to uncover useful items. And I actually really, really enjoyed that. I don't ever want to have someone tell me how to play a game. And that's what a lot of what is called backseating in video games is. Someone telling you exactly how to play a game. It's basically like having someone just read a guidebook step-by-step walkthrough to you, or type it out in chat and have you follow it. I don't want that. I don't need that. I don't like that. But when I had people coming in and saying, dude, there's definitely some really cool armor that you should get. You go down to the depths and go over into this area and you'll find some really cool stuff. I'm fine with that. Actually, I dug it. It was super rad. So I really, really did enjoy having some new people come into the channel and kind of give me some expertise, some different ways of playing, because I play that game just run and gun style, just tackle a mission, head on and finish it. But when I had people telling me, you should equip this armor. Oh, you don't have it? Go and get it. Here's how you get it. And having people tell me fuse this with that and do, buff up by getting this combination and cook this stuff so that you have buffs and, you are able to defeat the characters and the enemies and boss battles much easier. It was really, really interesting. So I beat Zelda. I beat Tears of the Kingdom, and oh my gosh, that final boss fight was incredible. There was this one night, it was the last night of July, because it was July's game of the month. It was July 31st, and I said on the Discord, I'm going to beat this game tonight, no matter what. If it takes me 7 hours, I don't care. I'm going to stay up as late as I can so that I can finish this game. And so I went down into the depths and just did all the, main storyline. And then I got to the final boss battle of Ganon. And I was like, all right, cool, blah, blah, blah. But I was really, really struggling because there's this whole thing with gloom, which is like this red gooey substance that's kind of on the walls and the floor. And it will basically break your heart pieces for your health. And when I say break it, I mean it cannot be refilled. Even if you use a fairy or a healing potion or whatever, it cannot be refilled. So basically what I did is I was like, oh man, I'm just having too much of a hard time. I need to go cook. I need to do this or whatever. So I tried to restart the area or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, almost over a month ago at this point. And so I restarted it and I thought I was going to jump back into the boss fight, but then I had to backtrack. I actually was reverted to an older save, like 30 minutes in. There's this other big boss battle that you have to go into, a preliminary boss battle. Then you get to Ganon. And so I had to redo all of that. And I was so bummed. But I was having such a good time and I was having so much fun with that game that it didn't really bother me all that much. So when I finally got to Ganon, I suck at boss battles. I actually hate boss battles. It's like one of my big main defining things about me with video games is I dislike boss battles, which is weird because most people love them. And when I was playing this, I was just like, oh, this is frustrating. I know what to do and I'm just not able to execute it properly. I'm having a hard time. I get stressed out. I make mistakes because I'm rushing through the animations and things like that. I don't take my time. And that's it is on me being more patient in boss battles. So I really tried to do the best that I could. And there was the final battle where I have a quarter of a heart piece on, like if I get hit, I'm dead. And I've got him to the third phase for like the umpteenth time. And he's battling me and I'm trying to dodge and block and do the dodge rush or whatever it's called, where basically you enter in a slow motion mode. And then since he's the final boss, he can do the same thing and counter and counter and counter. And I did that. And it was so epic. And I don't use that word lightly. I kind of hate the fact that the word epic has lost almost all meaning. But it was so insane doing the slow motion rush mode, and then having him counter, and then me countering his counter, and then he counters my counter that I countered his counter, and it went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I finally got him. And it was awesome. And I just threw up my hands and yeah, all right, cool. And then the next cutscene happened. And here's some spoilers for Tears of the Kingdom. If you are still not wanting to be spoiled on it, here you go. So Ganon turns into a dragon. And one of the things in the game is Zelda travels back in time and turns herself into a dragon. And so Ganon Dragon and Zelda Dragon are hanging out in the sky way, 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 way high up above Hyrule. And then Link is flying in the air, and Zelda grabs him, brings him up, and then Link jumps off and battles Ganon. Then as he falls down, Zelda grabs him again. It's this huge, quote unquote, epic. And again, I'm not using that lightly. It is unbelievable how amazing that boss battle is. And it is so cool. It is easily my top 5 boss battles of all time. Easily. The grandioseness of that boss battle was insane. My jaw was just open the entire, just going, oh my gosh, this is so cool. This is exactly what Zelda needs as a franchise. And I couldn't love it. And then the final cutscene happens, and there's like just this, oh my gosh, I can't even put into words how beautiful that final, part of that game is. From the point where Zelda is turned back into a human or elf or Hyrulean or whatever, and she's turned it back into her normal self, and she's falling in the sky, and Link is trying to grab her, and he's flying down, and he grabs her in midair like a skydive, and it is just, it tugs at your heartstrings with the music that they've chosen to orchestrate with that. It is cinematic in the best way possible. And my gosh, I could not believe how amazing that game was. I had a blast with it. That ending, like I straight up teared up a little bit because of it. It was amazing. So that was July. And then we moved into August, and because I knew we were going to move, I was like, man, shoot, what am I going to do for my game of the month? What am I going to do for game of the month? Because I know in the middle to late end of August, I'm going to be moving. I'm not going to have time to do game of the month. And I really do want to put game of the month on a pedestal with my channel. I do want to make it something really cool and big and something that everyone can look forward to as, hey, Ryan's going to be playing this game a lot during this month. And so I wanted to do something newer, but also I was having a really fun time because over the course of the last couple of months, I've been playing through a lot of old school first-person shooters from the 90s. Doom, Doom 2, Doom 64, Duke Nukem 3D. And earlier in this year, in February, early March, one of those games got remastered, one of those types of games, which was Star Wars Dark Forces. It's a first-person 90s shooter where you play as Kyle Katarn, and it's a first-person shooter in the style of Doom, but all Star Wars-based. And it's funny, my wife always talks to me about this. She's like, I thought you hated Star Wars. I said, I hate modern Star Wars, but I love original old school classic Star Wars. It was one of my favorite things growing up. So I always wanted, and I had this game, or I had a shareware version of this game when I was a kid in 95, 96, whenever the game came out. I had a shareware version of it, but I never got super deep into it. The level layout was really exhausting. It was so puzzle heavy and just labyrinthian that I really, really struggled to play through that game. And so I never got to. And then this year they released a remaster of it. And so I started playing it, back in February, before the channel started really growing, and I put it down and I never went back to it. And so I said, shoot, I know that game's short enough that I can finish it with hopefully within about 2 weeks. So for August, the game of the month was Star Wars Dark Forces Remastered, and I went through it and I had a really good time and I was able to finish it. And so that was super fun. I really did enjoy that. I also did play, once I finished that, I was like, shoot, what am I going to do? Because I did really like the first person shooteriness of it, since I now know a lot about Doom and Duke Nukem and all that stuff, and Quake. We played through the Quake games also in VR. Doom, Doom 2, Doom 64, Quake 1, Quake 2, Quake 3, Duke Nukem 3D, all in VR. So I was like, shoot, I really want to play Dark Forces in VR, but the engine doesn't allow for it and all that stuff. So I could not play Dark Forces in VR. And with the remaster, they still didn't do some of the stuff I was hoping for, which was probably the biggest thing, was checkpointing. In modern games, we have checkpoints. That's just the way it is. But with this game, they stuck with the original. You have X amount of lives in the game, and if you die within the level all the way with all your lives, then you just have to restart, period. Tough luck. And these levels are long. They're exhausting because I don't know them. I'm not familiar with them. And so I go through and I'm trying to be cautious and not die and all that stuff. And I don't know where anything is. So I have to, navigate this labyrinthian style level. All of them are like that. They're not very linear, and it took forever. So some levels ended up taking, originally, I think one level took me 2+ hours to beat the first time through. There's these 2 elevators that go up and down, and you have to lock the elevators at a certain point and get out and then go through the shafts of both of them to move on and finish the level. And I didn't know that. And so I just was struggling so much with that game because it is a very, very old school style. And the update is fantastic. The new engine runs beautifully, super buttery smooth, but it just did take a long time for me to finish and beat. So that was basically what's going on there. And when I finished that, I was like, shoot, I'm still kind of on a Star Wars kick, and I'm still kind of on a VR kick. How can I bring these two things together? Star Wars Squadrons was a game that came out a couple years ago, and I think 2021. And it's basically a new TIE Fighter versus X-Wing game from, again, the 90s, old DOS games. And man, those games are super fun. I never got really into them just because that's the way it was. I for whatever reason, I didn't. And I really liked those games, but I just never got into them. So when this game came out, my graphics card was starting to show its age. And so I was having a little bit of trouble running that when it came out in 2021. This is during the pandemic, at the height of the pandemic, when most graphics cards were impossible to get, literally impossible to get a new graphics card. Unless you shelled out roughly about 3 to 4 times the amount that they retailed for, and you wanted to risk it on eBay from some scalper, that was the only way to get a new graphics card. So I stuck with my old GTX 1080 Ti that was starting to show its age a lot, and I just kind of put it down. So I figured, well, since we're just, like a week away from moving, why not just play that? So I did, and I had a really fun time for a little bit until the game started having issues. And I mean graphical issues, crashing issues. And I was my mindset was so set on moving that I would just get instantly frustrated with the game crashing. And I hate when my production suffers from it. Call me a perfectionist if you want, because I totally am. But when my production fails or has issues at any point, like even right now with Starlink and the stuttering and things like that, it bothers me to no end. It's something that I'm trying to work through. I'm trying to get better about it, but it still really, really bothers me, like deep within me, that it's unprofessional. I always try to run my streams professionally. And when that doesn't go the way I want it to, because it's live production, things happen like that. I get really frustrated. And so when that game started crashing a lot, and I was just like, yeah, whatever, I'll put it down. We'll come back to it later. I'll figure it out later. So I was in the middle of moving and all that stuff too. So I just didn't really spend more time with it, unfortunately. And I want to go back to it, but that was something that kind of was just extra. And it's something that I can come back to at any time, finish up that game, because we're only a few levels in at this point. I think the game's decently long for what it is, and I'll have a good time with it. But it's really, really interesting. So those are the things that I've been playing. There's also one other game that I just started because of all the stuff that happened over the last couple of weeks with moving, especially this last week. This has been one of the roughest weeks of my entire life, bar none, easy, by far. And when I was able to stream the other night, I said, I just need something fun to play. And I noticed that there's a new game that just came out. And if you've listened to some of the older podcasts back in 2021 and early 2021, or no, maybe like March, May 2021, I did a few podcasts where I talked about the Monster Jam games. I don't know what got into me, but I was like, dude, monster trucks, right? So I found that there's new monster truck video games, and there's a company called Monster Jam that has like all of these monster trucks together, and they tour and do these big stadium events. It's called Monster Jam. And so I looked at some of these games, and there was a sale for the first one. I think something like that. Like the sale on the first one was like $1. And I was like, dude, this is a monster truck game for $1. It came out like 5 years ago. Why not? So I downloaded it. I bought it for $1, downloaded it, played it, and played all the way through in like a day or two. And I had a blast with it. Very, very rough. Technically, the physics were super way off. The environments felt very dry and empty in certain aspects, but it was still really, really fun, and it just kind of made me smile. And then the reason why game was on sale is not only because it was older, but the new game was coming out. And so the first game was Monster Jam Steel Titans. And then the second game that was brand new was coming out was Monster Jam Steel Titans 2. And so I started playing Steel Titans 2 after I finished Steel Titans 1, and I had a blast with it. Not as much as the first one, though. I actually liked the first one more. The physics were even weirder in Steel Titans 2. The environments felt way more goofy and childish compared to the more real world setting of Monster Jam Steel Titans 1. So I just was like, whatever, but I had fun. I played all the way through it. I beat it, and I podcasted about it. It was fun. Fast forward to earlier this year, I think during Summer Games Fest, E3 2024, they announced, hey, Monster Jam Showdown is coming out. And I went, oh my gosh, yes. I'm so excited because I just need those games in my life. They are a palate cleanser. They are super fun and just goofy and weird and just something totally, totally different, where it's a video game. It's fun. And that is the main objective of those games. Fun. And so I was like, dude, I'm down. I don't care how much it cost. I am down for this. So after we got the news that we're clear to close and we can move and do all the stuff in this house and all that stuff and just everything, it was like a celebratory, like, yes, I gotta play this game, and I'm going to stream it. And this is a perfect time to test the stream. So I downloaded it. I bought it, downloaded it, and started streaming it the other night. And I had a blast. I had such a good, relaxing, fun time with that game. However, the game itself is a little bit more serious. You are playing monster trucks. You are racing through these crazy environments and doing boosts and jumps and all this stuff. It has a much more Moto Storm type of vibe to it. I don't know if you remember Moto Storm or not, but Moto Storm was a PlayStation 3 game that came out roughly around the launch window of that game or that system in 2006, maybe early 2007. And its big claim to fame was terrain deformation. So you would carve like mud pits and things like that as you would do the laps. And it also allowed you to race trucks and dune buggies and motorcycles all at the same time. So MotoStorm is actually a really good series. I would highly, highly recommend it. It's a fantastic series. I love that game. And the Pacific Storm was the second one, and then the third one was Apocalypse, I believe. They even released a TV, a 24-inch PlayStation branded TV that looks like an old PSP, like the PlayStation Portable. And it had this really interesting technology that came with, I believe it was Pacific Storm, where it was side by side. And it had 3D glasses because that was the whole trend back in 2011 was 3D. And so with that game and that TV, one person could watch it without glasses and see their screen full screen. And then the other person would put the glasses on and they would see their screen, second player, full screen on the TV. So one TV was displaying two different images at different refresh rates, or I don't remember how the technology worked exactly. But if one person was watching the TV without glasses, they would see their player one screen in 1080p on the full screen. And then the other person had the glasses on and they could see their player two screen, complete full 1080, taking up the full real estate of the screen at the same time. It was incredible technology. But for whatever reason, it didn't take off. I think partially because it was glasses and 3D and all that stuff was garbage. But I'm kind of getting sidetracked. The MotoStorm games were super fun. I would highly suggest playing them. And they have a lot of the same similarities as this new Monster Jam game. Monster Jam Showdown, which just came out, 2 days ago, is more race heavy than I thought it was going to be. They do have some freestyle events and jumping events and stadium events, but it just feels way, way different. It feels like Dirt 3 and 4 also, where it's so race heavy and themed heavy that it kind of loses a lot of its personality with it. I've only played 2.5 hours of it, so I cannot tell you exactly how big the game is or if it gets better or anything. We're going to go back to it. We might play it tonight. I'm not sure. But I'm just a little bit disappointed with the way that it's progressing, where I immediately went, ooh, this feels different. This feels like a modern race game that has monster trucks in it, not a Monster Jam game that has racing in it. And that's kind of what I was bummed about. But I'm still playing it and I'm still going to have a good time. So that's kind of what I've been playing over the course of the last month and a half or so. We're going to get into more games a little bit later on, but there are some new games on the horizon, or at least 1.0 release that I'm really excited about, which is Satisfactory. Satisfactory came out in early access a few years ago, and I normally try to stay away from early access games because they just have this weird thing where so many things are being added and removed and tweaked. Like, you just don't get a good gameplay experience. Your worlds or your game save gets deleted and wiped over the course of the development cycle. And I just don't really want to play unfinished games. I just don't enjoy that most of the time. every once in a while, there is a game that I will do that with. Subnautica was one of them. When that first came out in 2014, I bought it pretty much day one and then started playing it and played it all the way until 2017 when they did the 1.0 release and played it in VR, which was stupidly fun. I did that with Subnautica Below Zero, the sequel to Subnautica. And it's funny, while I was moving, I was listening to the podcast. Yeah, I know it's a little weird. I listen to my own podcast, but it's because I really enjoy listening to video game talk. And I feel a lot of game podcasts don't do that anymore. It's all about politics. It's all about current events. It's all about pushing propaganda and agendas. And they very rarely actually talk about the video games themselves. It's always news and not the game mechanics or the story or how people felt playing the game. And so that's what I tried to do with my podcast. So as I was moving, I was, driving 45 minutes each way or even longer than that at some points where I just had to have something in my ear. The radio in the car is broken and all this other stuff. So I'm just like, okay, I gotta listen to something. So I put my headphone in and I just listened to the Discord channel that's called Podcast Radio. It's down right now because I still haven't set up my server, but I'll get that set up soon, hopefully this week. But it just loops the Game or Die podcast. And we've got now 85 episodes. So it just constantly loops. And one episode came on where I was talking about Below Zero, the sequel to Subnautica. And I was talking about how when they originally came out with it, it was a totally different story. And then in the middle of development, they fired the writer and started the game from scratch. The entire storyline was completely wiped. So they said, if you want to play now and see the original story, play it now because we're wiping it and you will never see the original story. And it had to deal with the main character's sister and they're both working and there's like this big collapse and they got to find each other and all that. And you're working for, some corporation. Totally gone, doesn't exist in that game anymore. And, the game came out in 1.0 access or 1.0 release a couple of years ago, 2022, I believe, maybe even 21. And so it's really interesting to see what games were and weren't and all that stuff. And you lose a lot of the stuff. And I just don't like going back to games either. So if I play a game in early access, I tend to not go back to it because I already played a good chunk of the game and I just don't like going back to games when I've already exhausted a lot of it. So that's kind of how I'm feeling with Satisfactory. Satisfactory is coming out in 1.0 access, 1.0 release. And Satisfactory is a it's a factory building game. It's all about conveyors and drilling resource management. That's what it is. It's a resource management game in first person. So you are this character that lands on an alien planet and then has to find resources like mine ore and then make that ore get transported somewhere to get smelted down and turned into various objects. And then you build other conveyor belts to take it other places and blah, blah, blah. And then you have to build electricity out of nothing. And it's a really, really fun game. I've dumped dozens and dozens and dozens of hours into it. And it's coming out in 1.0 release on my birthday. So by the way, September is my birth month and I celebrate it throughout the entire month. So happy birth month to me. That's the first time I've said it today. But so I wanted to do a lot of birthday themed stuff. And so on September 10th, that is my actual birthday. And Satisfactory releases in 1.0 on my birthday. And I thought, man, that's great because Satisfactory is one of those like upper echelon type of games for me. Like, I don't know why I like that game so much, but I smile every time I think about it. And again, listening to that podcast, that I talked about it during those drives moving a couple weeks ago, it was just like, yeah, dude. It wasn't even a couple of weeks. It was like a week ago. It feels like I've lived 3 years in the last 2 weeks. It's been exhausting, but Satisfactory is so fun and so enjoyable, and it's coming out in 1.0. So I'm very, very excited to either figure out if I'm going to start fresh, which I really don't want to because it takes so long to get going. And I've done it like 5 times at least over the course of since it started coming out. So I don't really want to start that whole beginning process. But once you get to a certain aspect, it's really just running out the clock, letting all the resources just accumulate and build up. And there's not really a whole lot to do. So I'm kind of got to figure out what do I want to do with that. But Satisfactory is freaking awesome and I love it. At the end of September, and September 26th, we're getting a new Zelda game, which blows my mind. Let's be honest. Like we get like the last Zelda release, we got Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom, like 7-8 years, right? But they also did release a remake actually, of Zelda Link's Awakening on the Switch in between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So I think it was 2019, 2020 when Link's Awakening came out. And that was a really fun remake of a Game Boy Advance game, or a Game Boy game. It was original Game Boy. Top down, it's got this weird tilt shift technology aspect ratio to it. So it looks like a diorama. And I love that. I love that. But I'm really not a fan of the chibi style characters. That's the one thing that I'm not super big fan of. But even then, it's not that big of a deal. It's okay at best. But I love the Zelda series, and I'm really excited about this. This one's called Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. And it comes out on the 26th of September, so at the end of the month. And you actually play, for the first time, I believe, you fully play Zelda in a Zelda game. Because obviously we all know that Link is the guy in Zelda and Princess Zelda is the character and her name is on the box, but you play as Link. Now we finally get to play as Zelda, and I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I'm excited, but cautiously optimistic of it. So I tried looking for some other games, but there's not really a whole lot of other new games that excite me that are coming out this month. So I've got a few other things in my pocket that I want to play, but we're gonna focus on just a few over the course of this month, which since it's September 1st, and I'm unfortunately my network has been, it's strewn across multiple cities, but my network is down, so I cannot pull the resource to put it up on screen. But I will later on when I am able to recover it. But I over the course of the last couple of months, I've been actually really trying to stick to a schedule, and I built a really cool calendar schedule for each month. Since July was the first one, and then August, and now September. And I started this early last month because I knew things were going to be crazy and hectic. So I came up with a game of the month earlier last month, and it was because there was this rumor going around. And I really, really am kind of a little bit bummed out about this. Bummed out at myself because there is this rumor that this one game is going to come to PC, and it hasn't happened in 14 years. And people keep saying it's coming to PC. It's going to come to PC. Oh, there's a leak that, oh yeah, it's finally going to come to PC. And it just is not happening. And there was this new leak that just came out recently, and I commented on it. I said, you guys are fooling yourselves. You're setting yourselves up for disappointment because it's not gonna happen. The devs went on record back in 2010 when it came out and said the code is such a mess that we cannot ever do a PC release. We're all thanking God that this game even got a release because the code was such a mess. So I was like, you guys are just stupid. You guys are stupid for thinking this. But then I started thinking, boy, it would be fun to go back to that game, especially for my birth month, especially for September, celebrating my birthday. Why don't I play a game that I really want to just replay? Games are in such a drastic, crazy place right now with releases. Like, oh gosh, we could go on a rant about the state of video games, and we're not going to right now. But I have found myself really wanting to go and replay older games for the first time to combat the drought of good new games that have been going on since about 2016. Yeah, about 2016, 2017 is when we started getting this really, really bad modern gaming industry. And I'm not going to go on a rant on about it because I don't want to tonight. Not tonight. I'll do it on some other podcast episode or on a stream. But I really want to go back and replay some good games instead of the garbage that we're getting right now. So instead, I was like, shoot, what do I want to play? And I got to figure something out. So what am I going to do? And I got myself hyped up for this rumor a little bit more than I should have, even though I knew it wasn't going to happen. But there was this little tiny speck of hope that it finally would. And the time for people when they were saying, oh, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen this week, it's going to happen this week, came and went, of course, because it's not going to happen. And I still decided to make it Game of the Month. And if you haven't picked up on what I'm talking about, it's a little game that came out in 2010. I made a video on it back in 2010, put it on YouTube, and it went viral. You can look this video up, and it's got about 270,000 views on it. And Angry Joe used that video for his review of the game, and just a little clip of it. It's something that I love. One of my favorite things is Westerns. It's my favorite genre of movie. I love cowboys. The Old West, man. So for September, the Game of the Month is Red Dead Redemption, the first one. Why the first one? Because I did play through Red Dead Redemption 1 in 2018, right before Red Dead Redemption 2 came out at the end of 2018. I think it was September of 2018, I played through Red Dead Redemption. And then in November, I played through Red Dead Redemption 2 when that came out in 2018. So it's been a few years, but I don't want to play Red Dead Redemption 2 just yet. It's still fresh enough in my mind that I can recall most of the places, most of the storylines, all the character twists and things like that. I want to give myself a few more years before I go back to Red Dead Redemption 2, probably. But Red Dead Redemption 1 is still a great game, and it's something that I can continue to play and talk about endlessly. So by the way, if you haven't seen the video that I'm talking about, my video that I posted on the internet that went viral, go look up Red Dead Demonic Horse on YouTube. Just search Red Dead Demonic Horse, and you'll see me recording the video on my phone. So screen recording the screen of this horse bouncing up and down, and the cart bouncing up and down in this weird glitch, to the point where it's like vibrating, and it shoots off into the air. And it was just hilarious. I was at my game store with my friend Andrew, and he is laughing hysterically. He's got just this super great, like he could barely breathe. He was laughing so hard. It's so high pitched. And man, it is one of my favorite memories. I love remembering that. And so I'm going to play Red Dead Redemption as the game of the month for September because it's my birth month and I can do whatever I want on my channel. And I'm very, very excited to play through it. I'm going to try and tweak it a little bit so that it runs 4K, 60 frames per second and all that stuff. I should be able to do that at this point with the computer that I have. But I'm very excited about it. It's such a great game. It is so relaxing. And I don't know how far I'm going to get into it because this is a big game. It's a really big game. And I don't think I'm going to play through the entire story in the month of September. But I would like to complete it again, finish it again. So we'll see. We'll see how September works out with this temporary studio. We'll see how it works out with the streaming. I know the frames have been just crapping out here. Oh boy, they're pretty bad. But I will definitely still continue to play it, and I still will have fun with it, and we'll see how far we get. It's September, baby. We've got not that much stuff coming out right now. I'll do a birthday stream, and I'll try and do I don't know. This birthday is going to be a little bit weird. Normally for my birthday, I do a video. I shoot, record, and edit and upload a video every year on my birthday. I wake up, I think of an idea that I want to make, and I put that into motion. I record it, and then I edit it, and then I upload it all within the span of my birthday on September 10th. I also hang out with my wife. We do fun stuff, and maybe my family. I visit with my family and stuff too. This year is a little bit crazy. This year, my birthday is on a Tuesday, and on Tuesdays I have my improv class at church. So I'm going to be doing that on my birthday, and that's going to span from roughly about 5 to 9. And so I've got a big 4-hour chunk where I'm just going to be doing stuff at church. And then, at 9 o'clock, I'm going to be back and then want to hang out with my wife. And then am I going to make a video or not? I don't know. So I wanted to, my plan was to do a stream on my birthday, but it might have to be super late. So I will probably do a super late birthday stream. We'll play some Red Dead. We'll play some Satisfactory. We'll play, whatever else I feel like playing because it's my birthday and celebrate. But man, I'm very, very, very excited about the future of this channel, the future of this house and new studio that I'm going to build. I got some really fun ideas. Like I said, it's going to take a while. And that's where I just want to make sure that everyone is understanding of that. This streaming thing is not just for fun. It is a second job for me. And it's been really tough, going, I'm not streaming today. I'm not streaming. But the physicality and the emotionalness, I didn't even get into the emotional stress of the last couple of weeks, but it's been one of the most emotional, stressful times in my entire life, spiritually stressful too. And so my house and my wife and my family all in church always comes first, but streaming is a second job for me. And so if you like anything that I do, if you do enjoy this stuff, join in, chat. I love talking with people. With the podcast, it's a little different because I am just talking to the camera. I am just focusing on recording the podcast. And I don't know if I'm going to do a Q&A podcast. I would like to, but not right now anyways. I got to set up some stuff so that I can have a chat screen and all that. But that's neither here nor there. Anyways, I just want to say thank you for everyone who does watch, who does chat, who enjoys the stuff I do, whether it's, live on Twitch, Kick, Rumble, YouTube, or if it is, with the videos on YouTube and things like that, or if it's just the podcast, whatever it is. I appreciate every single person who watches. Now, I do got to kind of start doing a little bit more self-promotion. I do got to kind of kick it into high gear with, trying to make this thing monetarily work for us and our family. So if you watch on Twitch, it's September, so it's September as well, which means you can subscribe to the channel, which is 30% off for until October 1st, I believe. So all the month of September, if you subscribe to the channel via payment, it's 30% off. If you use Twitch with Amazon Prime and you have that connected, you have a free Prime subscription that you can use on any channel. And I hope you use it on mine, because I do stream pretty much every day, except for the last couple of weeks. Since January, I've streamed literally every night, at least one stream per day, except for the last couple of weeks because of moving. But I'm going to continue. We're going to have some fun. I might stream a little bit later tonight, play some more Showdown, or start Red Dead Redemption. Who knows? But until then, thank you so much for watching or listening. I hope you have a wonderful and fantastic rest of your day, night, wherever you are in the world. Take care. God bless. And I'll see you on the next stream. I was going to say ta-ta for now, but that sounds weird. Yeah, whatever. Ta-ta for now. Bye.